want to welcome also Sinawo Tambo, EFF national spokesperson, into this one. And this is also coming in from the EFF statement that was also released earlier on regarding the very same conversation that we're having about Bloomberg and now MoneyWeb reporting that indeed part of the negotiating table is Starlink, Elon Musk's Starlink, being allowed to operate in South Africa and bending parliamentary processes for Elon Musk. Sinawo, welcome to Metro FM Talk, and thanks a lot for your time this evening.
Thanks, Faith, and greetings to the listeners.
Maybe let's start off here from the EFF's perspective around this particular working visit. I mean, the President Cyril Ramaphosa and his delegation have called it a working visit in Washington, D.C. They've said that it is a trade visit in Washington, D.C. From the EFF's perspective, really, how do you perceive this visit?
Look, we perceive it as pandering to Donald Trump and his administration, which has taken a deliberate decision to spread disinformation about South Africa as it relates to a so-called genocide of white Afrikaners. So the attempt to try to formulate a narrative that it is a much broader working visit is false, because it was Donald Trump who last week spoke to the media in the United States of America and said that the South African leadership will be visiting him to clarify allegations of a genocide of Afrikaner people. So that is at the center of the visit itself. But we as the EFF have consistently characterized the narrative being built by the Trump administration and narrative led by Elon Musk that we are committing genocide as part and parcel of an attempt to delegitimize the moral platform that South Africa has to call out the genocide of Palestinian people by the Israeli state. So that is the fundamental problem that the United States of America under the Trump administration has with South Africa, and the Afrikaner question has become a useful tool to delegitimize us, and then Starlink becomes the secondary issue where Elon Musk, who's got a control over Donald Trump, is utilizing that control to spread disinformation in order to coerce access into the South African telecommunications market by not abiding to our local laws. So we view the visit as a misappropriation of priorities, because tomorrow we're having a budget, but also as part and parcel of trying to appease an American administration that already has a predetermined view about South Africa.
And I mean, and I want to echo with what you're saying around President Donald Trump when he himself said that they are coming here to clarify. He didn't necessarily say that they're coming here to look at how do we better negotiate trade agreements, and obviously looking at the tariffs that have been imposed not only on South Africa but also other African countries, in fact, global community really. It wasn't touted as a trade agreement. It was almost a trade meeting. It was touted as a meeting where I've summoned them so that they can come and tell me whether or not what is happening in their country is true.
Absolutely. So it's a media campaign that is driven by the South African government to try and broaden the scope of this visit. And I think tomorrow, because unlike here in South Africa, where you guys are restricted from access to the president and you don't really get to ask him questions, when you enter the Oval, you get full access to the conversation itself. And if we all remember what happened 2 months ago to the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, tomorrow is going to be quite an interesting meeting that is going to expose that the narrative being developed by the South African government about this being a visit with much broader trade and economic and diplomatic consequence is going to be thrown out the window when Elon Musk, who will probably be there, tries to insert his narrative about 140 race-based laws and him being denied access to the South African telecommunications market because he's black. And Donald Trump also pursues his narrative of us isolating their allies in terms of Israel and aligning with Iran and fighting against the genocide of Palestinian people in the International Court of Justice. So that is the primary problem that the Trump administration has with South Africa. And that media engagement is where it's going to be exposed. And it's unfortunate that South Africa is going to be embarrassed as a consequence.
So now let's talk a little bit about Starlink. It has been, and again, it hasn't come from the delegation, the South African delegation, nor has it come from the mouth of the President of the Republic of South Africa, but it has come from media reports, international media reports that are saying that Starlink is on the table. And if you remember, the reason why Starlink cannot operate is not because it's not just a Starlink matter. It's obviously any foreign company matter. If you want to operate in this country, you have to abide by the rules of this country. And one of them is around, a triple BEE and being able to look at the share and BE share of broad-based black economic empowerment. If indeed it is on the table that Elon Musk can bend the rules of parliamentary procedures and parliamentary policies, What then?
Look, the EFF will take it to court, and we were very saddened to see those reports because Cyril Ramaphosa spoke earlier today and made some commitment that there won't be a compromising of South African sovereignty or of the laws that we have adopted. And these are not only limited with regards to the regulation of satellite network operators of foreign descent in the form of Starlink, but also in relation to the NHI Act, to the Bella Act, and the Expropriation Act. Those are pieces of legislation that America has used as scapegoats to form an aggressive front diplomatically against our country. So if this is going to be done for Starlink, how much more for those pieces of legislation that seek to transform South Africa's society? The problem of Starlink that does not want to abide by the CASA regulations of 30% local ownership is that it's a level of hypocrisy that must be rejected by everyone. Just last year, or earlier this year rather, they wanted to purchase a stake in TikTok and wanted a majority stake of TikTok to the tune of 40 or 51% because they said that TikTok poses a national security threat in the United States of America with its current ownership composition that is constituted by the People's Republic of China. They are the ones who wanted to control TikTok on that basis. So why is it now so foreign for us, the South Africans, to say we want 30% local ownership? But not only that, Starlink operates with the same model that we're demanding here in South Africa at the regulatory level in India. So why are we the ones who are being subjected to some manufactured outroar and uproar for wanting to have a local stake and ownership? The second part, Faith, is that the current behavior and conduct of Elon Musk, who has been propagating the lie of the genocide of white South Africans in South Africa, the posture is taken against us, poses the national security threat to South Africa if Starlink is allowed to operate. I mean, it's going to operate through satellites and remotely. So we won't have any direct interaction with the infrastructure that Starlink operates with. What is it going to do with that data? What is it going to do with that information? And further to this, the fact that he's been so aggressive to us means that he can manipulate it. And we've seen recently through the AI system of Grok on X platform, where he tried to manipulate it to perpetuate a lie that is about genocide in South Africa. So what happens when he controls South Africa's telecommunications infrastructure? So the threats are so deep and so bad that even if you were to agree to what the media is reporting as equity alternatives, such as investing in local infrastructure or donating Starlink kits to South African communities, I don't think it's enough because his threat poses one that compromises our national security and sovereignty integrity.
Sure. Yeah, the big question there is, as you're saying that now you're going to take it to court, would this be the demise of the GNU if indeed that particular offer is put on the table where Starlink is concerned?
Look, the GNU is something that I think exists outside of principle. So there's no principle that guides it where people say, for example, they are committed to transformation initiatives or they're committed to whatever they promised their constituencies in terms of fighting expropriations or compensation. The DA has shown that it will not exit the GNU regardless of whether it fundamentally undermines the principles that it stands for. And the ANC has also shown that it is going to coexist with a political party that takes it to court whenever it tries to implement transformation initiatives. So I think the conversation around the GNU based in terms of principle is one that we should not all consider. The GNU is dead at a principle level. They don't have a budget. They've been unable to pass one over the past 3 months, and they are existing in the courts of South Africa battling out pieces of legislation. So that's not a government. A government doesn't fight amongst itself as to whether it can pass certain laws or not. They are unable to find consensus. So Starlink will just be another issue on the table that reveals that this government is incoherent and is unable to lead South Africa to prosperity.
Snau Tambo, EFF National Spokesperson. I appreciate your time. Professor Gilbert Kariagala, the International Relations Expert. Let's hear what you had to say.